Hey, so I think that we have figured out exactly how we plan to move all of our stuff out to Michigan now. We ended up not deciding to go with the shipping container, though we really wanted to make that happen. It just sounded really cool to get to have the shipping container at the end of the move to get to use as storage or potentially turn into something else, or even to then just go and resell and recoup some of the expenses from moving. However, we actually learned that it probably at the end of the day was going to be potentially a lot more expensive than originally anticipated. As I was receiving quotes from individuals, like some guys that were able to move it, I learned that in order to move a full shipping container, it requires a special truck, like a special truck, truck bed thing. I can't even think of what the name of it was. I have it written down somewhere in my notes, but it requires a special bed because the shipping container is full and it's super heavy. Shipping containers already weigh something like 9,000 pounds. So then it would have all of our stuff inside of it, which we've been quoted that our stuff probably is somewhere between 10 and 12,000 pounds. I don't know how accurate that is. We've been getting rid of a lot of stuff, and I'm hopeful that we're able to get rid of even more before I move. There's still tons of things that we are waiting to list on Facebook Marketplace until closer to our move, like things that we we still need this. Not only does it require a specific special truck, but it also requires a crane to come and pick up the box because it's so heavy. That's the only thing that can really pick it up safely. So in order to get a crane, you have to rent, someone has to come out and do it, and you have to pay the person to come and do that. And that alone was going to be pretty expensive. It would have been fine. It still would have been our preferred method for moving if we already had our exact home that we were going to be living in. But as I've mentioned before, we are going to be moving or staying at someone else's house temporarily until we end up finding our forever home, or at least our long-term situation for when we're out there. So if we were to do that, we would have to, have the container picked up, moved, put somewhere in Michigan, but it's a temporary location, and then we'd have to have it picked up and moved yet another time once we actually find our home. We were quoted crazy numbers across the board. One person that we talked to said it was probably only going to be around $750 here in Denver, Colorado area to be picked up, because again, you have to have one company here on this end and then one company on the Michigan end. And so they said somewhere around $750 to maybe $900 for the pickup here for that crane. And then in Michigan, they found a company that said that they could potentially do it for around $1,400. At the end of the day, all of those numbers together were going to be fine. But then somebody else that I talked to said, no, it's probably going to be at least 1,000, if not 1,500, potentially more here in Colorado. And then out in Michigan, the company that he was talking to said that they required a minimum of 4 hours, and it was going to be something like $500 to $700 an hour. I didn't actually talk to the companies directly. It was more like the shipping guys were trying to help coordinate the container pickup. So maybe if I were to call and do some of my own research, we could find more affordable prices for that. But again, I didn't consider the fact that the container would have to go through a pickup and moving twice. It's not just the one-time move. It's no, it's going to be in a temporary spot, and then we're going to have to pay again for someone to come and lift it to move it to our property. And so even if the numbers were the original, what the first guy I talked to, even if it was the lower numbers of the $750 and maybe $1,400 or something like that, it still then would start to add up. And then, you know, many of these companies, they have a minimum of like 2-hour requirement, which the 750 and like the 1400 included those like 2 minimum hours. But it's like, okay, what if they go over? What if it ends up being more? And it didn't seem like they had like binding contracts for these things. It was going to be more of a, you had to pay this once they finished it, and it could potentially be more than the minimum amount of hours. So it just ended up being more work and more expensive than we were hoping. We just kind of kept trying to think about it because we really wanted to do it that way, but it just wasn't going to work out. So we are going with the kind of our second favorite option, which is just the getting a moving truck, you know, renting a moving truck kind of a thing, a big U-Haul type truck, and then having someone actually come and move for us. So either someone from here in our community or someone in our new community that we're moving to is going to come here to Colorado then to help us move the truck out there, because I think I mentioned in a previous video that we're going to do some hopping around the country just for like a week and a half or so before we get out to Michigan in order to visit some friends. And we're really looking forward to that because we haven't seen them in a while. But yeah, our house, I'll flip this around. Our house is super empty. Right here, there used to be a kitchen table. There used to be a couch and some other chairs. You can see we're piling things up over there. We've gotten rid of a bunch of our patio furniture that's gone out back. We used to have some like other bookshelves and things over in our living room back here that are gone. So yeah, there used to be like a bookshelf here and then something around this corner, and we've taken down all of our wall decorations and stuff. And yeah, I've just been slowly kind of whittling away at everything. Yeah, basically every day I list a new thing on Facebook Marketplace, whether it's for sale or for free or whatever. Our porch is like constantly full of things that people are coming to pick up. And yeah, yesterday was Saturday, and of course that's like the best day for people to come and like pick things up. And we had like tons of piles of things. Right now I still have a pile of some things that people are supposed to come pick up. So we'll see. And we're collecting boxes. Never buy boxes when you are moving. That is a pro tip. I don't know if it's a pro tip. I feel like people know that these days, but you can get tons of free boxes. First off, Facebook Marketplace, people are getting rid of boxes and moving stuff all the time. So I've picked up a handful of boxes from Facebook. I also just posted on my personal Facebook saying like, hey, we need boxes. If you have them and you live here in Denver, you know, let us know. And we've had lots of friends who have contributed even like a box or two. And some people have had like multiple boxes that they just like collect for people like this. And they're like, yeah, we love helping people. So here we have a bunch of boxes. So that's been super helpful. We have piles of boxes in places, and we have now made over $2,000 just selling stuff from our house. It's been pretty incredible, really wonderful that we're able to kind of start to get some more money for the things that we have. And yeah, all in all, it's been over $2,000, which is really cool. The other sad thing is we got rid of our chickens the other day. We brought them to our friend's house, and I'm just thinking about this because I'm like looking out in my backyard, and it's my habit to like whenever I'm looking in this direction towards my backyard that I like look at them and check in on them and just like make sure that they're out there having a good old time. And sadly, they've now been gone for 2 days, and it's just sad. And I really miss them. We had 2 left. We at one point had 8 chickens, and then 1 got attacked quite a while ago. And that was really sad. But at the same time, she was like probably my least favorite chicken because she was so mean to the other chickens. So part of me was like, well, at least she was the mean one, I guess. And I felt really weird saying that, but you know, they're chickens. So anyway, she died a long time ago. And then, sadly, it was probably 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. It was probably 2. I can't actually remember exactly when it happened, but 4 of our chickens were attacked in one day, and it was quite shocking and really sad. And anyway, then a few days later, we found the culprit probably to the first attack, because likely if you have multiple attacks happen like pretty quickly, it's usually the same predator that has come back for those animals. And we found a stray dog in our backyard that had gotten through a small hole in our fence, and our neighbor literally like on the other side. So the dog got in on one side and our neighbor on the other side. It was early in the morning. They happened to be out in their backyard and they saw it happen, and Wes saw the very end result of it. And our neighbor apparently was like trying to like get the dog to get away. So he was like chucking rocks over our fence, which we found out about like after this all happened. And I had gone out in our backyard and I was like, why are there these like random rocks? And I was like so confused because they were like decent sized rocks. And then Wes talked to our neighbor about it and was like, yeah, we had a chicken attacked and stuff. And they're like, I know, I tried to stop it. And we were like, well, thank you for trying to stop it. And he's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it. And he's like, yeah, the dog broke in. He's like, he saw it. The dog found like a weak spot in our chicken coop and broke in and pulled my favorite chicken out. And that was the other 4. I was definitely really frustrated. I was more like angry about it than I was like sad. I was like, this is so dumb and I can't believe this happened. And I kind of blamed myself. So I was like, how could I let this happen and all this stuff. Anyway, I realized I'm standing by the dishwasher and it might be kind of loud and obnoxious. But I just started it. So anyway, I'm supposed to be doing laundry right now. Let's head down to the basement and do some laundry. Actually, I need to get Malachi's diapers. We do reusable diapers, cloth diapers, and I usually have to do a load a couple times a week for those. So let me grab those. Anyway, about my chickens. Yeah, so it was really sad and really frustrating that happened. But then they got my favorite chicken and I cried a lot that day, like a lot. She was a little silky chicken, just so fluffy and really cuddly. And she was just like so sweet, and Malachi really loved her too. I mean, obviously he's just like a little baby, but he really liked her because Esther was her name. Esther would let Malachi pet her, and he was always really cute and really funny doing that. So anyway, our chicken flock was brought down to 2. So we only had 2 chickens left. And we had a friend who I knew already had a bunch of chickens and had a pretty cool setup for her flock. And she has 2 boys, and I reached out to her to see if she would be interested in taking our chickens, because I was like, oh, I feel like the chickens will have a really good life there. And yeah, I reached out pretty early on in our journey to like figuring all of our moving stuff out, because originally I actually thought it was going to be pretty hard to rehome our chickens. Originally I had asked her actually when we still had 7 chickens, and then 2 or 4 got attacked, and then we had 3 left, and then I told her, we only have 3 left, and then literally a day later I think there were only 2 left. And so yeah, super super sad. And it was much easier to find a new home for our chickens than I actually thought it would be. I paused the dishwasher right now because I wasn't sure if it was going to be super loud on the video. Anyway, I thought it was going to be really hard, but after I'd asked her, like a few weeks after, I had tons of people asking me if I knew where I was going to bring my chickens and if we would consider giving our chickens to them. And I didn't expect that, but I guess now that I kind of look back, I'm like, I guess I'm not super surprised, because a lot of people are really getting into all the backyard chicken stuff. And like, we've had them for several years now and have kind of like shared with people how easy it's been for us to like home them and to keep chickens, and how wonderful it is, and they're so great, and we get eggs and they're fun, and all the stuff, you know, and we've been just talking up being chicken parents for years, and it's kind of trendy, I guess, right now too. So I guess I'm not super surprised, but I guess in my mind I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so hard to find a new home for these chickens. And yeah, we, lo and behold, like tons of people wanted them, but we did drop them off with my friend who I originally talked to bringing our chickens to, and we brought them on Friday, and Malachi and Wes came with me, and it was really sweet to get to like see the chickens in their new home with their new family and stuff. And yeah, it was sad. I was sad like driving away, but I was also like happy because I'm like, this is such a great setup, and they'll be able to do a lot of free ranging there. And they have, you know, like the boys there are so good with chickens and love chickens. So I'm excited. I'm happy for them. It was probably like the best situation that they could have, you know, that you could hope for your little baby chickens and stuff. So anyway, but last thing on the Facebook marketplace front and chickens, we had like a really kind of funky chicken coop setup, mostly because we originally started out with a pretty tiny coop that we got on literally Wayfair because we just didn't know what we were doing, and Wayfair literally sells chicken coops, believe it or not. And so we got this kind of like cute little wooden one, and it's pretty small, and we originally started with 4 chickens. And it was fine, but I also was like, you know, I really want them to have more space and all this stuff. So then we got like this random chicken run thing and added that, like this little extra run to it. So in our old house, they had this decent size setup. And then we moved here, and I wasn't really sure, like we did a lot of free ranging in our last house. We had a pretty tiny backyard, and it was fairly covered by like trees and stuff. And then we even had this like deck that was, you know, I could pretty much like walk in like by like this, like it was pretty tall, like you could get under it. And the chickens loved being under there. And so they spent most of their time outside of the run anyway. But then when we moved to this new place, or, you know, we've been here now for over 2 years, like 2.5 years. But when we originally moved here, I was kind of nervous. There's not a lot of tree coverage. Our landlord actually said when we originally moved here that there's tons of like really big, beautiful hawks and stuff. And like he was saying this as like a really exciting, fun thing. He knows we have chickens. But in my mind, I'm like, that's terrifying. There's hawks and stuff around here. They're going to eat our chickens. And so I was really nervous. So we bought this extra part of our run that would make the, you know, the whole area that they could be in much larger. And so it was this like Mod Podge of like coops. And then we got more chickens. So we got another like chicken coop thing for them. And it's like, we had 2 actual coops with like this big, long, funky run that kind of attached it all. And so it was like this whole Mod Podge of stuff. And all of the original coop stuff that we had, you know, again, it's from Wayfair, so it's not the best for chicken coops. I don't recommend it. I won't even add a link to it because I'm like, I don't recommend it if you're thinking about doing chicken keeping for a long time. Like maybe if you think you're going to keep chickens for only a few years. Like we had that thing for almost 4 years, I guess. It worked out, but it's definitely by this point, it's like falling apart. And I was kind of like, man, what are we going to do with this? We're going to have to like tear it all down and like somehow get it into our trash can and figure it out. And my mom was like, why don't you just put it on Facebook Marketplace and see if someone wants it? And I'm like, it's a piece of junk. Who's going to want this thing? And of course, like I'm the person who usually like puts everything on Facebook. So I'm surprised that I like didn't just do that. But she definitely gave me the push I needed to actually do it. And so when she was in town, we listed it, you know, took a handful of pictures just to show people like, this is a piece of junk. I had actually like 6 or so people message me like immediately after posting it. And this lady came, I told people on the listing too, like you have to disassemble it yourself and everything. Like, I'm busy, I've got stuff to do, and if you want this for free, you've got to come figure it out and have your own truck and all this stuff. Then this lady came all by herself. Thankfully, my mother was available that afternoon, and she was very gracious to help her and everything, and jumped in to do that because I had like phone calls, like work calls and stuff. Anyway, they got it all on this truck. It is insane. Like, thankfully this woman was like, I only live a mile or two away, so she wasn't going very far. But I was like, this is kind of sketchy. I hope you don't get pulled over because this is really crazy. But yeah, she took it and she was very thankful for it. So now we just have the part of our chicken coop that we really love left. It's the omelet eglu. It's EGLU. They're very expensive, but we actually found it on Facebook Marketplace. Someone was getting rid of like the whole system that we have here for like 50% off the original price. And it was so good. It was all the way like way out in the mountains, and Wes, I literally had him go drive out to the mountains one day. It took him like 2 or 3 hours to get out there. He had to disassemble it himself, like all by himself. Anyway, bless his soul for doing that because he drove so much in one day. And we got it, and it's great. It's a wonderful coop. That was where we kept the other 2 chickens. We kept them primarily just in this one spot because we didn't want them to get attacked, and that part of the coop is like really sturdy and sound and stuff, and we knew it was going to be a good spot for them to stay protected. I'm just kind of rambling on about random stuff, but that's where we're at with our moving journey. We are continuing to get rid of things, and we're only a few weeks away from packing up and getting out of here. It's quite crazy. I honestly can't believe it. Everything makes me really emotional because basically everything is like the last time that we're doing something. And yeah, it's really hard. Wes like preached his last sermon at church today, like in big church, like for everyone, for the whole congregation. And it's not the last time he will ever preach. In fact, he's already scheduled for preaching out in our new church in Michigan. And so it's not the last time he's preaching, but it's just the last time he's preaching at like our home church that we started our marriage in. And that was like super emotional. And I like cried a lot during the sermon. Not like heavy tears, but like I just like a tear would slip out here and there. Or like when he was praying at the end of the whole sermon and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, it happened. It's over. This is it. And yeah, I was just very emotional. And there's been a lot of things like that this entire week and this entire month. And I'm sure it will continue to be like that until we leave. And even after we leave, I'm sure I will probably still be very emotional. It's kind of weird, like seeing some people and I'm like, this might be the last time I like ever see you in general. And that's like a weird feeling. Especially like people that I'm not, like I work at a gym out here 1 day a week for a few hours. And I work on Thursday mornings, and there are regulars that come every single Thursday that I'm there. And so I've gotten so used to seeing them and catching up with them. And there's this one gentleman who I've told that I'm leaving and all this stuff. And he's like, I'm going on vacation for like a month. And he was like, this is probably the last time we're ever going to see each other. And it was like the way he said it, I was like, yeah, like we might not ever see each other again because like he's not like a friend of mine that I'd like come and hang out with. He's just like a guy that I happen to see every Thursday at the gym. So it's just like so funny. I don't know. It was just a very real moment, I guess. And there's just like little things like that every day that I'm like, I don't know, this is the last time I'm going to do this or that or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So there are definitely things though that I'm like, I am so thankful I won't have to ever deal with this again. Especially traffic out here. I think I've talked about that. Traffic is nutsos, and we're moving to a super rural area, and I'm sure traffic is going to look different. Maybe it'll be like tractors or livestock on the roads versus like hitting every single light on the way to church, which there's not that many lights, but it's enough to like add 2 to 3 minutes onto a 7-minute drive, and it's rather obnoxious. So anyway, I think I'm going to end there for this video. I don't really know what I'm doing with these vlog style things. I'm just vlogging, I guess. I'm making coffee right now. Just this random decaf that I'm literally just trying to get rid of stuff. And I'm like, I don't even love this decaf, but it's the afternoon, so I don't want caffeine. And I'm just trying to get rid of things that are in my freezer. Hence, I'm drinking this decaf random coffee that I had. I don't even remember where I got it. Oh, last thing, sorry. If you have not already checked out my podcast with my cousin called Crunchy Stewardship, go check it out. We have a few episodes out now, and I'd say they're pretty cool. I actually really like them. I've re-listened to them, which is always so funny to like hear. I don't actually mind hearing myself in general. I do that with editing videos and everything. So hearing myself talk isn't like weird. I've kind of gotten used to it. It is weird at first, but it just kind of gets normal after time. But with the podcast, it's kind of funny because you're like, oh, I'm re-listening to a conversation that I'm having with my cousin. And I actually really like them. I'm like, wow, I would continue listening to myself on this podcast. But I don't know if that's saying much. That's kind of a weird thing to say, and it sounds very egotistical. But I hope you go check it out. It's all about like holistic stewardship, doing things kind of the more unconventional way, and yeah, being more natural and non-toxic with our lifestyles as a way to glorify God and be good stewards of our resources and our bodies and even our families. And so yeah, we talk about food and water, and we'll talk about things like garden and healthcare and all sorts of stuff. So go check that out if you haven't already. You can look it up, Crunchy Stewardship, on pretty much anywhere. We're on YouTube too. Our podcast is here on YouTube, but it's also on like Apple and Spotify and all the places you can find podcasts pretty much. So go check it out. Hope to see you there. All right, now I will really go. Bye-bye.